Hello and welcome to Lecture 9 in our 32-part series of Project Stakeholder and Communication Management. In the last lecture I talked about primary stakeholders. Actually in the last two lectures I talked all about primary stakeholders, what are their stakes, their roles, responsibilities and relationships in connection with projects. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the secondary stakeholders. And as I pointed out in one of the preceding lectures, that there are a very large number of secondary stakeholders, and they can be all different types. They can be competitors, they can be media, they can be academia, they can be environmentalists, they can be professional organizations, they can be tourists, they can be in some cases whole governments, countries. So there are potentially a very large number of secondary stakeholders on projects. It depends on the project, what type of project, where it's being undertaken, how many secondary stakeholders there could be. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the secondary stakeholder community, and secondary in the sense of Cleveland and Ireland, the definition which they have provided of stakeholders. You remember, primary stakeholders are those stakeholders who have a contractual or sort of formal legal obligation, relationship to a project. Secondary stakeholders are those who do not have a contractual or legal relationship to a project, but they have some interest in the project, which could be financial or cultural or archaeological or environmental, which could be long-term, which could be short-term, and so forth. So what I'm going to do now is I'll start with the competitors, and competitors are secondary stakeholders which are especially relevant with regards to commercial type projects, not only, but in many cases, in most cases you will find corporations. They are doing R&D work, they are coming up with innovative ideas. These innovative ideas are being translated into new products, new services, and there are other organizations which are active in the same field, and they have an interest in such types of projects which their competitors are doing, because it's going to affect their own position. Are competitive stakeholders? Yes, of course, definitely they are, because through their projects companies may, depending on the circumstances, which if they are favorable circumstances, they may gain a comparative advantage, which may be a very significant comparative advantage over their rivals, their competitors. And I prepared here this example of software development as a case in point. Now let us suppose, very simple example, we have a market, software development market, and in this market there are four companies which are offering a certain type of software, a software which falls in a certain specialized category. For example, high-end image editing software. Let us say image editing software of a very high end, a lot of functionality, very popular. You can do a lot with that software. Now, suppose one of these four companies, let us call it firm A, starts a project to develop a new or even an upgraded version of a software, image editing software, which it is going to market at a price which may be slightly higher than the software which its rival companies are offering, but which has a much expanded scope of functionality. In other words, it's qualitatively much better than the software which its rivals are offering, and the price difference is very marginal. Now, what would happen? Logically, if you are offering a very good product, which no one else is offering, and if you're offering it at a comparatively good price, even if it might be slightly more expensive than what other companies are offering, the quality, the increase in quality or the extra quality you get from buying that software would justify the slight increase in cost, in the price of that software. In other words, what this could mean is that that company which is making that high-end image editing software will attract a lot of consumer demand. It will attract demand which otherwise may have gone to its competitors. So the competitors would lose out because the consumers are now going to this company which is offering the qualitatively better software, company A or firm A. What can its rivals do? What can the other three rivals do, firms B, C and D? Well, they can try to outdo company number A. They can bring out their own software versions, and these software versions, they may be comparable to the new version which A is offering. They may be better, in which case demand will go back to them. They have to do something. In other words, they cannot just sit around and do nothing. They have to try and compete now with the new software which company A is offering. So without initiating software upgrade projects of their own, companies B, C and D may lose heavily in lost sales and market share as buyer demand diverts to firm A's new software. Okay, so they have to start doing now something, and that is why they are stakeholders. They have an interest and they would like to know what is company A doing. And company A, of course, is not going to go out and say, look, this is what we are doing and this is all what you're going to get. Probably not. It will be done within company A, behind closed doors. A certain team may be working on developing that new software, and they're of course not supposed to go out and divulge what they're doing, because then company A may lose its edge if the other companies react. So there are many options which other companies have in order to get information. Many of them are not ethical, they're not legal. What happens in practice is that many companies, in order to know what kind of projects their competitors are working on, they use all kinds of means, for example, stealing trade secrets from their competitors, or luring away employees to work for them by offering them higher salaries and maybe better working conditions. And through that, they hope to get the insights. Now, of course, when you're working for a company, you have to sign a contract, you know, that you're not going to divulge confidential information. New projects, especially those which can give an organization an edge in a very competitive market, these are closely guarded information which you're not supposed to divulge. So there is a legal dimension to this also here, breach of contract. But just to illustrate the point here, you have got all these stakeholders. In this case, you have 3 companies, you may have 10 companies, you may have 20 companies, again, depending on the context and so forth. And all these would like to know what exactly is going on. So they have a stake, because their survival, their organizational survival, may depend on what their competitor is doing. If their competitor snatches away the market from them, well, then they're either out of business or they have to go into new areas. So there is a lot at stake for them over here. This sort of competitors trying to access information about other competitors, this is very common. And interestingly, a couple of years ago, there was a very big case in the headlines involving 2 very big IT companies. One is Oracle Corporation from the US, and the other is SAP from Germany. And in November 2010, a jury fined SAP, the German software giant, $1.3 billion because one of the SAP subsidiaries had illegally downloaded from the internet millions of files from its US competitor Oracle. Obviously, they're not just downloading for the sake of downloading, but there is a purpose behind it, you know, to analyze all the information and then to use it in order to try and gain some competitive edge over Oracle. This is happening all the time. This is not uncommon. And you read about it many times in the newspapers. You hear about it on TV. These are just some of the cases which come to light. Most of the cases don't come to light. They're done very secretly, very clandestinely, and it's something which is very common. And it's not only restricted to the commercial world. If you think back at the time, many of you might not be old enough, but if you think back to the time of the Cold War between the West and the Soviet bloc, which only ended about approximately 22 years ago, well, during the Cold War, there was a lot of spying going on. projects, weapon development projects, missile development, submarine development, fighter aircraft development. Both the Western countries, the NATO and the Soviet bloc, the Warsaw Pact, they were engaged heavily in spying on each other, trying to see what kind of projects were underway, what kind of technologies, what kind of weapon systems were being developed. So, and of course they were competitors. The West and the Soviet bloc, they were competing for power, for influence all around the world. So it's a similar case, but in a different context. So this is about the competitors. Now I want to move on to another this stakeholder category, and that is the what we call civic and professional organizations. And there are, in every society, in every country, a very large number of civic and professional organizations. This is modern society, you know. Very complex entities, very integrated systems, tightly integrated systems. And there are many organizations with and institutions with diverse missions, goals and objectives, operating in diverse fields and representing diverse interests, and interact in a very complex and dynamic environment. Of course, without them, our societies would not be able to function. Well, what are the types of civic and professional organizations, which, by the way, influence project in many ways? Well, some examples of organizations, which I'm sure all of you also must be familiar with: educational organizations, medical establishments, vocational training institutes, consumer interest and advocacy groups, trade and manufacturers associations, chambers of industry and commerce, government regulatory agencies, service-oriented NGOs, and so forth. All of these are, you know, civic and professional organizations. They have their function to fulfill, they have their role to fulfill in society, and of course they have got a very big interest in projects. If you look at medical establishments, for instance, or hospitals and old age homes, we don't have that many in Pakistan yet, but in many countries you do. Nurses associations, doctors associations, all different kinds of organizations over there. Of course, they have got an interest in the type of medical projects which are underway, new drug development projects, for instance, or new therapy development projects, or new equipments which are being made, diagnostic equipments, and so forth and so forth. All these types of projects, medical-related projects which are underway, they are a big source of interest to these medical associations, medical organizations, medical institutions. For example, the same way textiles. Pakistan is a country which is heavily dependent on textiles for its exports still. It's strange, while everyone else has diversified away, but Pakistan is still heavily dependent on textiles. But anyway, that's another point. You know, there are all kinds of textiles, towels and sheets and clothes and garments and so forth. And you have all kinds of associations representing these different categories of textiles. And of course, they have a very big interest in projects which are underway, in policies of the government which relate to the textile sector, in export, import, procedures and tariffs and so forth and so forth. What I have prepared here is some slide here which gives you information on different types of project management associations. Now, project management associations are, of course, just one specific association category related to project management, and there are quite a few. You might have heard of the PMI. I've talked about it in some of the earlier lectures, the biggest association of project management professionals in the world. Currently it has, I think, about 300,000, maybe somewhat over that number. It's a very big association. I was also a member a couple of years ago, although I did not renew my membership, which I should have done. And the PMI is just one of many project management associations. People always think it's only the project management association, but there are many project management associations. And what I have done here is I have just shown you a few of them. If you look at this slide over here, you will see at the top, right at the top over here, is the Project Management Institute. Now, if you click on this logo, you can see over here, this HTTP link is given, www.pmi.org. If you click on this logo, it will take you directly to the website of the Project Management Institute. And there are tons and tons of information given over there. It's so much information that, you might find yourself a little bit sort of under pressure how to process all that information. I have also given some other important associations over here, and by the way, these are just some which I picked out, some which I consider to be more relevant, more noteworthy, but there are many, many more. The IPMA, the International Project Management Association, they have their own certification system, by the way, and it might be useful if you look up this website over here. Then I have got here like, for instance, the National Association of Project Managers, the PMI India, based in India, the Swiss Project Management Association. Then I have got here the Greater China Project Management Association, the Japanese Project Management Association. There was also the German one. Where was that here? Deutsche Gesellschaft für Projektmanagement. This one over here. This is the German one. And down here is the one for the French-speaking countries, and also the Association for Project Management, which is based in the UK. They also have their own certification system, APM BOC. And if you just, let's just take this example over here. If you click on it, and hopefully the internet is working at this point in time, if you click on it, you'll see where it will take you here. The Project Management Institute website. And here you can see lots and lots of links, like membership, if you want to become a member of the PMI certifications. You can see here some information about them, what they are, why choose one, which one is right for your specific needs, how to go about it. Professional development here is quite interesting. Getting involved as a volunteer with the PMI, and they have all kinds of chapters and so forth, including one here in Islamabad. Business solutions, PMBOK guides and standards. This is the body of knowledge which we often refer to in our teaching of project management. Over here, a lot of knowledge publications on project management. These are magazines, PM Network, PMI Today. The Project Management Journal is a very high profile journal, along with the International Journal of Project Management, which is from the IPMA, and many, many good research articles you will find over here. These are all accessible online through the digital library, courtesy of the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan. And then you have a marketplace here in case you want to buy books and so forth. All this is available. So you can see it's a very informative website, tons and tons of information, all kinds of books and magazines and case studies and white papers. And if you want to get funding for your own research in project management, well, you can see they also have got a provision for that. Here the PMI seeks proposals for research funding, call is open, etc., etc., etc. So this is all, something which is, I would say, very useful to look at. If you also maybe want to have a look at the IPMA website and see, I have not been there for quite some time, but okay, right. As you can see here, they also have got a lot of information about the IPMA, about the membership. You can see here all types of membership, corporate memberships, contact individual membership, certification. It gives you a lot of information there. The awards. A lot of these project management associations, they have many functions. One of them is also to give awards and to provide scholarships. Education and training, research is given over here. Young crew and resources, so there are also publications available. So here you can see a lot of information. This one is very useful over here. this competency Baseline version 3, just like the PMI has got its own body of knowledge, version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, well, the IPMA has also developed its own standard, ICB, and that is in the version 3. It's very useful, and if you read it, you will see that there are some areas which are included in it, which are not included in the PMBOK. So that is something one would like to perhaps maybe have a look at. Well, anyway, I think I've made my point, and most professional organizations, you will find they have their own websites. Of course, all the project management associations as stakeholders, they would be interested in projects all over the world in all categories. Those which are national associations in certain countries, they would of course be particularly interested in projects which are ongoing in those particular countries. And you can see that there is a wealth of information which is available over here through these stakeholders. All right, so I think I will push on now to the next category of secondary stakeholders. Very important category, and it's one in which can cause a lot of headache for a lot of big projects especially. And this category of stakeholders is the environmentalists, which we all would have heard about, which we would have read about. They're also quite active in Pakistan. And especially it's since the 1960s, it's about 50 years ago, this movement, the environmentalist movement, it has really emerged on the global scene as a very vocal and also as a very influential entity. Now, environmentalists, as the name already suggests, they are concerned, their interest is basically the environment, the natural environment. The natural environment encompasses many things, the ecology, it encompasses the fauna, the plants and the animals, the quality of water, the quality of air, the quality of soil, the oceans, and so forth. And there are many organizations, many environmental organizations all over the world. Some are very small, some of them have become very big and very influential, and names which often come to light when one is dealing with large projects and their environmental issues are environmentalist organizations like Greenpeace, which you might have heard about, other ones like, for instance, Friends of the Earth, and all kinds of other ones which have all cropped up in the last many years. Now, organizations like Greenpeace, they make world headlines periodically with their campaigns aimed at generating public awareness against actions ranging from the cruel practice of whaling in the world's oceans to the plans of the nuclear industry to construct new power stations. So you might have sometimes seen footage of Greenpeace activists. They chain themselves to bridges, they chain themselves to railway tracks, or they are trying to stop ships from harpooning these whales in the oceans. So there is a lot going on in that. They also have a lot of legal sort of know-how. They can mobilize a lot of legal resources. They can also mobilize the general public. They can mobilize political support in order to fight against or to counter certain types of projects. So that's why it's very good advice to the project owners, to those who are planning projects, to those who are executing projects. Always try to be on the good side of the environmentalists, not only because it's the right thing to do morally, but also because environmentalists, if they want, and if they see an opportunity, and if they're not happy with your project, they may try to derail it. So, and of course, as a project owner, planner, or executor, you would not like to invest a very large sum of money in a project. You would not like to invest all your time and your energy only to be found out later on, after you have invested all your time, your money, and your energy, that the project cannot go ahead because the environmentalists have found some means to block it, whether political, whether legal, whether administrative, or otherwise. Now, the projects which the environmentalists tend to be very concerned about, of course they wouldn't be really concerned about what kind of projects you are doing in your house, or maybe an IT project, or maybe some other types of project, empowerment project. They're not so concerned about those by and large, but they tend to be more concerned about these larger projects, especially large dams, mega projects, and road, airport construction projects, and projects in the energy sector such as oil, gas terminals, building pipelines, nuclear power stations, all of which involve substantive damage to the physical environment, its fauna and flora, the plants, the trees, the animals, as well as potentially soil, air, and water pollution. So these are the types of projects which the environmentalists are usually up and about against. Dam projects, for instance, as we have seen, the example I gave you of the Three Gorges dam project, it has a lot of benefits, of course, but it also comes at a high cost, high environmental cost. For instance, destruction of a large area, which will be submerged underwater, destruction of all the trees. They may be very old trees, they may be very rare trees, they may be very rare plants. All the animals which are living there, again, they might be some species which are already endangered over the years and which now might become almost extinct or semi-extinct because of such mega projects. And these road construction, of course, road construction involves a lot of building, a lot of cutting across land, means a lot of trees have to be chopped down. If you look at Islamabad to Lahore motorway, Islamabad to Peshawar motorway, if you look at the widening of some roads, like the GT road, or even some roads in larger cities like Lahore, Canal Bank, where they have a very large number of very old trees, which have to be sort of relocated, and if they can't be relocated, they have to be chopped down. Well, these are the types of things which really cause a lot of headache to environmentalists, and which they will do everything to try and prevent. Now, the thing about environmentalists is that they're quite flexible, and often they don't only fight alone, but what they do is they form coalitions, coalition networks. That is, whole groups or networks of environmentalists, they get together in order to, say, contest a certain project. And there are many examples of that all over the world, especially with regards to some of these larger projects, which I have just pointed out to you, where whole groups of environmentalists, small, medium, large ones, they have all ganged up together to pool their resources, to pool their information in order to contest such projects. And this, of course, makes them very formidable project opponents, and they are not in the good books of many large organizations, public sector, private sector as well. Well, I think that's all I have to say about the environmentalists, and one can go on and on and on. We'll look at some examples later on in our lecture series, when I'll be discussing the Chad-Cameroon pipeline, which was one of the biggest infrastructure, energy-related infrastructure projects undertaken in the African continent, in the sub-Saharan African continent, which was heavily contested by the environmentalist organization Friends of the Earth. Moving on now to tourists. Now you would think, how are tourists stakeholders? What have tourists got to do with projects? This is what you might think at first hearing it. But actually, tourists have got a very big stake in projects. And many projects actually are being done specifically for the benefit of tourists. With globalization, the age in which we are now living, personal mobility and a booming travel industry, which is now one of the biggest economic sectors in the world, there is hardly a place on the planet which the tourists have not discovered, except some very, very remote locations. People are taking to the roads and skies in ever-increasing numbers to visit destinations both within and beyond national borders. If you were to look, say, 100 years ago, there was, of course, mobility taking place. People were moving across borders, but it was perhaps nothing on the scale of which it was now. Nowadays, traveling has become very easy. You go to the airport, you step on a plane, and after 10, 11 hours, you're on the other side of the world, you step out on the plane. That would not have been possible 100 years ago, where it was much more tedious, where you had to take the ship, or you had to travel overland, maybe in a carriage, maybe partly by rail, which was very, very long journey. What in old days used to take maybe days, weeks, now can be done within hours, within a day even. So obviously all this has made mobility very easy and cheaper also. Now, in terms of projects, certain types of projects, again, construction projects in the superlative category. Superlative means the biggest, the tallest, the longest, the most luxurious, most expensive, and so forth. Superlative is always the highest in any particular category. And these types of projects, they tend to generate a lot of interest among tourists. Tourists want to come and they want to see, oh, what's the tallest building in the world? Oh, what's the most luxurious hotel in the world? Oh, what's the longest bridge in the world, etc., etc. That is where the tourists come in. The tourists, of course, spend a lot of money. As I just pointed out, the travel industry is one of the pillars of the global economy. I think it was the second or third, actually, largest economic sector in the world. Tourists spend lots of money where they go, and in many regions, they are actually the prime source of economic prosperity. Many areas, many regions of countries, many cities, towns, they actually depend on tourism. It's their main source of income. They may not have anything else. They may not have large industry or service sector, but they have a very large, well, non-tourist related service sector, but they have a very large specifically for tourists. Thousands of projects across the globe in countries as diverse as Egypt and Thailand, Turkey and the Maldive Islands, Spain and the UAE are being undertaken by governments and the private sector specifically to cater to the needs of tourists. In Thailand, for example, beach resorts, many of them have been built. Why have they been built? Well, for tourists. They could be Thai tourists, they could be international tourists. They are tourists, whether they are from inside the country, whether they're from outside the country. The purpose is tourism, and that is why all these beach resort hotels, facilities have been built. The same in Spain. Spain for many years was a prime tourist attraction. Almost as many people visited Spain as people were living in Spain itself, which is over 40 million. That is, you have about 40 million or so tourists coming per year. So obviously you have to cater to them, you have to accommodate them, you have to provide food for them, and the facilities for them, and the infrastructure and the logistics and so forth. And that's why all these projects were undertaken while Spain was a very great tourist attraction. And now the UAE, which has grown out of the desert, which is catering largely for tourists to come to spend money over there and so forth. Some of the most visited buildings and man-made structures in the world are shown over here on this slide. On the top you see the Sydney Opera House, on the bottom left you see the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and on the right you see the Statue of Liberty in New York. And these are all tourist attractions. They may not specifically have been built for tourism, but they have become tourist attractions. I just thought I should point that out. The Sydney Opera House, as you can see over here, it's a very unusual architecture. It's not that old, maybe 30, 40 years old. And tourism was not the prime reason for building this opera house, but it would have been a consideration. But now, whenever you see pictures of Sydney on your screen or across the world, always somehow you see this image over here of the Sydney Opera House. This Sydney Opera House has become the symbol, the hallmark of Sydney. And many people who go to Sydney, they have been attracted, by seeing this. So it now has a very high, you could say, tourist sort of a value, this opera house, even though it might not specifically have been made for tourism. So there are many more man-made structures across our globe which attract countless tourists every year. So I think I've made the point over there with the tourists. So what I want to do now is I want to move on to another category of project secondary stakeholders. This category is the media. The media, as you know, is a very powerful force. It shapes public opinion. And there's a lot of debate about the media, about its influence on people. The question of media ethics, when I talked about ethics, I had also mentioned media. Sometimes the media also can use means to influence people which are not ethically sound. They can manipulate people. They can give them information which is maybe one-sided, or information, which tends to favor a particular point of view while ignoring other points of view. That is another topic in itself. I don't want to go into that. But the media has many manifestations. You can have the print media, the newspapers, which we get, the news and the Dawn and the Jung and the Tribune and so forth. The media can be broadcast media, the television, what you see on the television, the radio. And media can also be web-based form, online websites, CNN, BBC, Deutsche Welle, and so forth, plus all the many other newspapers, magazines, which you find on the internet. Anyway, through its reporting on projects, the media on numerous occasions has strongly influenced people's perceptions, sometimes in favor of projects, sometimes against them, by respectively focusing more on the project's positive or negative points. Sometimes, the people will say, well, the media will say, well, this project which is ongoing here, it's costing a lot of money. The cost is much more than the average cost, which should be for a project in this category. And yes, there's a lot of opposition and people are demonstrating, and political support is not very much there, and so forth. If they want to sort of get people to oppose a project. On the other hand, they can be more sort of in favor of the project. Yes, it's a national project, it has to be done. A lot of people are going to benefit, the region is going to benefit, the province is going to benefit, or the country is going to benefit, etc., etc., etc. So sometimes you will find the media in favor of, sometimes you will find them against a project. Media has got economic interest in projects. For example, the print media. If you pick up the newspaper, especially on the weekend, Sunday newspaper, and you open it a few pages, and you'll see page after page of advertisements for projects. You will see tender notices, such and such project requires such and such items, submit bid, invitation for quotation. You will find requests for proposals for consultants, for instance. Such and such project is planned, may take place. Consultants are invited to submit a proposal, etc., etc. You will find job advertisements for project staff, project manager needed, project accountant needed, project consultant needed, etc., etc., etc. So there is also a lot of income relating to projects which newspapers can get. So it's not only the reporting dimension, but it is also the economic dimension. So newspapers, they do have a very strong interest in projects. Of course, not in every project, but in many projects. And if you read the local English newspapers in Pakistan, every day on almost every paper you will find an article about such and such project, about such and such program. Is it going to be done? Is it not going to be done? How is it progressing? Is it progressing well? It's not progressing well, etc., etc., etc. The first exposure which many people have to a project in which they are not involved, directly or indirectly, is normally through the media. I mean, we are sitting here in Pakistan, we are not directly involved, or we're not perhaps even indirectly involved with projects which are ongoing, let us say, in Iran, in India, in Sri Lanka, in Myanmar, in Greece, other places. but still we hear about them. How do we hear about them? Well, it's through the media. It's not through our personal experience, it's not by conducting a field visit, but it is actually through the media that we get to know about these projects. And of course the media, they also have their own interests. They have their political interests. You know, one media might be closer to this party, one media might be closer to that party. There's ideologies involved. So the reporting may not always be objective. The reporting is done through the lens, through the perception of the journalist, or through the editor who is then editing the work of that journalist. So the exposure may be objective, or it may be very biased, depending inter alia on the ideological underpinnings of the media source. So that is why for project owners, for project planners, and for project implementers, it's very important, you know, to try and get media support for their project, to try and take the media on board as a secondary stakeholder and try and convince them of the benefits of their project, and you know, then see that they can pass on the message to a wider audience. Controversial projects especially, they often draw media attention through the reporting, which may not necessarily be accurate. Many people draw their own conclusions about the project's desirability or undesirability, as I just pointed out. You know, a lot of what we perceive of projects is not through our own personal experience or by seeing the project or by talking to the stakeholders. It's through the media. And sometimes we might be told that a project is very undesirable, which may not be the case. It might be just that the media is trying to project it as undesirable. And on the other hand, we may hear that the project is very good, which actually it may not be so good if you really think about all the details of it. So that is just some food for thought about the importance of the media. Interestingly, there are a very large number of documentaries have been made on major projects, and many of them, a whole series. You know, you can actually buy them on DVD in the shops, or you can order them through some mail dispatch service. A number of interesting and insightful television documentary series have been filmed about large and complex projects in construction and engineering, which have been undertaken in countries across the globe. And if you have got cable TV, such as National Geographic Channel, Discovery Channel, History Channel also, then you can view some of these documentaries because they periodically broadcast them. One example here is the TV documentary series Megastructures, which I hope some of you might have seen. And since 2004, National Geographic, Channel 5 of Britain and France 5 of France, they have been broadcasting these episodes. And what I've done here is, you know, I have put some links, which I hope are still sort of active, because it's been quite a while since I checked them. But if you click on these links, then you should be getting some information about them here. IMDb is Internet Movie Database. This should provide you some information about these megastructures, the documentary series. Another documentary series which is very useful is Extreme Engineering. And this is a documentary series broadcast by the Discovery Channel, and the Science Channel has aired 6 seasons, but that was last year when I made these slides, so it might be more. And if you want some more information, then you can click on this image over here, and then it should show you something. As you can see here, Extreme Engineering, you can see over here there's water underneath here, and you have this very long, very powerful looking bridge. Here you have this huge ship, here you have this railway line, and here you have this looks like an oil rig or something. So by clicking on some of these links, on some of these images over here, you can get more information. Finally, there is another documentary TV series, Modern Marvels, which is, I think, an older one. This has been shown on the History Channel. Over 520 episodes have been produced of this series, which was first broadcast in January 1995. You can see here's a long line of DVDs. So if you want, you can click on it. Best of Modern Marvels. Architectural Wonders is given over here. This is a very interesting series, Engineering an Empire, which shows you major construction projects, some of them going back thousands of years. And it's very interesting also to see it from a stakeholder perspective. So again, if you want to find out more about this documentary series, all you have to do is you just have to click on this, and it should automatically take you over there. Okay, now next category of secondary stakeholders, before we break up and then meet again in the next class. This category of secondary stakeholders is academia and research. You remember when I was talking about the secondary stakeholders and I gave you that whole table with all the secondary stakeholders listed, this was one of the categories, academia and research. People like me, in other words. Interest among teachers and researchers in projects stems primarily from the valuable information, the knowledge, completed and ongoing projects yield, and which can be used in the classroom environment and for research projects. As a teacher of project management and specialized areas of project management, it's my job, and it's also my personal interest to know all about projects, especially those projects which can yield knowledge, which can add to my own stock of knowledge, and which I can pass on to my students, and which I can pass on to people like you in this online course. Obviously, I would not be interested in each and every project which is ongoing in the world. I cannot, of course. You know, there's simply too many millions and millions of projects ongoing. But what I am interested in is projects, you know, where it can give me some good insight, more complex projects, where relationships among stakeholders, for instance, are more complex, they are more diverse, and there's more conflict potential. And one has to shed some light on that, see some insights, and see how that can add to the knowledge of project stakeholder management. For example, a colleague of mine may be interested in communication processes and tools used in large road construction projects. I too would be interested because, as I pointed out, communication management is really the basis of stakeholder management and engagement. But of course you'll have different teachers of project management. They have different specializations. They have different focus areas. And some might be more interested in the cost area. Some might be more interested in the scheduling of a project. Some might be more interested in the risk. Some might be more interested in the procurement, and so forth. So there are different shades here. For me, anything which is stakeholder related, and practically everything is, you know, so that is for me relevant. Professors, lecturers, you know, and researchers are usually keen to know how things they teach in their classes or write about in their publications are done in the real world. My experience has been that, based on the feedback from students, that especially in the MPM, the Master Project Management, and now the MSPM, the Master of Science in Project Management, feedback has been that what they have learned in the classroom environment is very consistent with what they do in practice. These were the professionals who have been part of our program, that things which they have been doing, they have been reacquainted with in class, and things which they have learnt in class, they have found that they have a very high level of practicability. They can be applied. They did not know about them, they learnt about them in class, and then successfully they have applied them on their projects. So of course, I mean, it's a sort of a mutual relationship. We like to know from professionals how they are doing things, and professionals like to know from us how we teach things. Now, what I have done here is I have prepared a slide of on-campus project management master degree programs. Project management as it is being taught, there are many degree programs in project management all over the world. In Pakistan, we don't have so many. We have ComSats, you know, which I initiated 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago. That was the first master degree in project management in Pakistan. Then we have Zabist, who after that they started their degree program. A few other universities in the meantime, they have initiated project management degree programs. FAST University, I believe, has a software project management degree program. It's taught at Lahore. Project management, as it's being taught in Pakistan, is a relatively recent addition, but many countries, especially in the West, they have project management degree programs which have been in existence for quite some time now. And what I've done here is I've given only a small sample. These are the on-campus degree programs, because project management can be taught when you're physically present on campus. It can also be taught in a virtual environment. Like this is, for example, a virtual environment, and there are many universities across the world which are teaching project management in a virtual environment. Well, these are the on-campus programs over here. These are some of the universities: City University, Seattle; George Washington University in Washington, D.C., Lancaster in Britain, Birmingham in Britain, Melbourne in Australia. Australians have some very good project management degree programs, by the way. Here again in Australia, in Sydney, in Adelaide. Also in Europe, European Master in Project Management based in Germany. Also in Lille, French, in the School of Management in France. And what I want to do here in Sweden also, KTH, what I want to do is I want to click on here on the University of Maryland. Okay, this is the University of Maryland, the Project Management Center for Excellence, based at the Clark School of Engineering. This is where I was based from 2010 to 2011. And if you click on this over here, you will see that there are a large number of links also. The curriculum is given over here. Research information is given over here. Visiting scholars is given over here. Visiting scholars, this is a number of visiting scholars, and you can see over here 2010 to 2011. That's me, Dr. Aurangzeb Zulfikar Khan. That's my field over here. This is when I was based at the university in the Clark School of Engineering, and I taught 2 project management courses. One was for undergraduates, communication for project managers, and the stakeholder class, which I'm teaching you, that was for the 20 graduate students. Another link over here, which you might like to look at, this is the University of Queensland. If I now go back over here, and you can see this is the page, the project management degree page, Master of Project Management, which is valid for students commencing 2013, so you might still have a chance if you're interested in going there. And it gives you some information over here, what you can do with a Master of Project Management, what it costs, how to apply, what you can study, the rules and requirements. You can apply online, the course list. You can have a look at over here. Let's see if this internet is working. Yeah, it's working now. You can see the course list over here. These are the course titles: compulsory, economics for commerce, benefit cost analysis, project evaluation, business and corporate law. I had pointed out earlier how important law is for project management, principles of project management, development projects, strategic human resource management, and then you have got here different fields of study which you can also have a look at. So, this is a lot of information which is given over here. And what I advise you to do is perhaps to look up some of these links for different project management degree programs. And you will see that the degree program which we are offering at ComStats is very comparable in terms of material covered, in terms of course content, in terms of quality to these programs which these very reputed universities across the world are offering. And of course we're doing it at a fraction of the price. So that's an added incentive. We should maybe try and get some international students to come and join our courses over here. Might be not a bad idea. Well, that's it really for today. And I think we have covered a lot of ground in this lecture. What I'm going to do in the next lecture is I'm going to continue looking at categories of secondary stakeholders. Now, I hope that the information which I have conveyed to you today will show you how important it is that you have to engage your secondary stakeholders. Of course, you have to identify them, you have to analyze them, you have to, for which there's a whole process. You have to find out what are their interests in the project, what are their stakes, what makes them supportive, what makes them adversarial. All this is a lot of work. It's all easier said than done, by the way. But this is an exercise which you have really got to do as a project manager, or if you're working as a project, part of the project team, planning the project, implementing the project. Secondary stakeholders are very important. And it could be that you have got primary stakeholders who are working very well together, but you have got some secondary stakeholders who are really out to create problems for your project. And these secondary stakeholders, they can undo all the work which all the integrated teamwork between the primary stakeholders has brought about. So that is something which you may like to consider, and never forget the importance of the secondary stakeholders. So that's enough for this class, and we will continue in the second class, in the next lecture, which will be lecture number 10. So thank you very much, and see you in the next class.